Interior cafe, day. Greg, late 20s, sensitive and well-spoken, is sitting at a table reading a fantasy novel. At another table sit Marco, a well-groomed 30-something Italian, and 20-something Carl, hard as nails. Marco and Carl share a joke, roars of laughter. As Greg looks up from his novel, we notice his black eye. He stares at Carl. Darren, who is in his 30s and similar to Greg but a tad rougher around the edges, joins Greg with 2 coffees which he deposits on the table. Darren ruffles Greg's hair. Ignoring Darren, Greg continues to stare at Carl. Darren sits and follows Greg's gaze to Carl.
Oh no, not the guy built like a tank.
Looking's not a crime, Darren.
It could turn into one, you know that.
Yeah, I know. You're going to remind me about the barman who gave me this.
Greg frames his black eye with his fingers.
Won't you ever learn the dangers?
Makes me feel good, looking at him.
Well, don't expect me to come to the rescue again. I don't want to add to my graffiti.
Darren lifts his t-shirt, revealing several bruises marked all over his torso.
But you said that guy barely touched you.
Darren pulls his t-shirt down and winces in utter agony.
I lied. You had enough to think about with your eye dangling from its socket.
Don't exaggerate, Darren. So that's why you didn't go swimming today. I owe you one, my heroic little punchback.
Just stay out of trouble and I'll be happy.
Darren and Greg take sips of coffee simultaneously. Greg has a foam moustache. This amuses Darren, who picks up a serviette and wipes Greg's mouth playfully. Marco notices this and nudges Carl, who cringes.
Thanks, Darren. You're the perfect man. I'm lucky you're mine.
A grinning Darren abandons serviette, picks up Greg's book and flicks through it, giving Greg an opportunity to steal another look at Carl over Darren's shoulder. Carl nudges Marco, expressing his chagrin at Greg's staring. Greg smiles at Carl. Carl rises angrily. Marco grabs him by the shoulders, making him sit down again. As Darren abandons the novel, he notices Greg transfixed by Carl and Carl's angry face. Greg snaps out of his trance and looks at Darren awkwardly.
What?
I can smell it. The stench of trouble.
And you are leaving me alone to fend for myself?
Can't I go to the toilet now?
Some bodyguard you are.
Keep your eyes off King Kong, unless you want a matching shiner. Look at the size of his fists.
Darren disappears. Greg looks at Carl again. A smiling Carl is immersed in conversation with Marco, but after a few moments is aware of being watched by Greg. Greg notices Carl's face changing into something threatening. Greg holds up his hands as if to say, "No trouble," followed by the thumbs up. Carl rushes over, swings for Greg and misses his head by inches. Marco grabs Carl from behind, trying to pacify him. Darren emerges from the toilet, horrified. Darren almost falls over as he rushes towards the trio.
Hey, just take your boyfriend and get lost before he really loses it.
He's not my boyfriend.
Your hubby, is he? The cheeky cunt. Keeps staring at me.
I don't fancy you. I prefer smoothies.
Don't provoke him, Greg.
Freak.
I don't care what you say. You make me feel warm inside. You are tonic.
You got a death wish, Greg.
Carl takes a swipe at Greg, who is still being held by Marco.
Carl, you want to go back to jail for BFG? GBH?
BFG. Big Friendly Giant. Love that book.
I'm going to give him a couple of slaps. Marco probably enjoys a good whipping.
Darren takes out his mobile and fiddles.
You call cops?
Darren shakes his head. Carl takes a deep breath.
He isn't after you, mate. You're the spitting image of our dad.
Darren shows Carl and Marco his phone. We see a picture of their father in his police uniform. He bears a striking resemblance to Carl. Marco laughs his head off, releasing Carl, who can't quite believe the likeness.
Shit. He's my double.
Greg starts to sob. Darren puts his phone away and rubs Greg's back. Marco stops laughing.
I couldn't shed a single tear at Dad's funeral, and now look at me. Niagara fake, if Niagara fucking falls.
Greg and Darren hug. Carl and Marco look at each other awkwardly. Greg and Darren separate.
It's the first time he's cried since our dad was shot 18 months ago. Greg gets a bit of comfort when he sees someone who looks like Dad. I told him to be careful. People get the wrong idea. Like the new barman across the road, dead ringer, if you squint.
I lost my father too. He looked like Kirk Douglas without the dimple. I cry when I watch Spartacus.
Greg offers Marco a pocket tissue. He wipes his eyes and smiles. Marco gives Greg a bear hug.
The Italian way, huh?
Greg looks as if he's enjoying himself. Greg winks at Darren. Darren shakes his head knowingly.
You smell gorgeous, citrusy.
Because I only got out of the shower an hour ago.
Marco and Greg separate.
That rhymes lovely.
Gingerly, Carl holds out his hand and Greg shakes it.
Hey, since I lost my job in security, I'm always in here. It's okay to come and look at me if you want. I mean, if it makes you feel better about your dad. I'm not, made of, granite. I do have a heart. I was a wreck when I lost my snake.
Greg is quite lost for words. He smiles.
Sorry about earlier. Call it frustration.
Look, my sister's company recruiting soon. Let's swap details. You never know.